The narrative of the movie begins in the 1300s, narrated by a young guy named Ash Williams who identifies as a slave. Right now, he and a few other men are being dragged as he is shackled in shackles. The scene cuts to a flashback as Ash reveals that this was not always how his life was. Early in the 1990s, a young Ash works in his hometown as a plain clerk at a local market. Linda, his lover, works as a clerk at the same supermarket. The two go on an intimate trip to what appears to be an abandoned cabin in the woods one day. They discover a book known as the Book of the Dead or Necronomicon Ex Mortis, within one of the cabinets. The former owner of the cabin was an archaeologist who found the book during an excavation. It is then revealed. Afterwards, Ash plays a tape recording of the lecturer reading selected passages from the book. Numerous incantations on this tape, regrettably, summon a malevolent force into the woods. That evening, the demonic spirits murder Linda before pursuing Ash. Through the blood arteries on his right forearm, they start to take control of him. In order to stop the sorcery from affecting his entire body, the poor man is compelled to chop off his arm. But the spirits still torment him, so his struggle doesn't finish here. Hurt and abandoned, Ash looks through the book for guidance and discovers a demon-busting spell. But as he performs the incantation, a time vortex appears, pulling him and his car, along with a shotgun kept in the cabin and the chainsaw he used to chop his hand, straight into it. In AD 1300, Ash and the other items are transported by the vortex to a large, uninhabited continent. A short while later, the Knights of Lord Arthur, a strong man seeking supremacy over the British Isles, encircle him. The fact that Ash seems to be dressed in odd, modern clothing has the knights perplexed. As a result, they call upon a wise man to ascertain the precise nature of the situation. The wise man declares that Ash is the one who will deliver humanity from the fear of the Deadites, as predicted in the Book of the Dead, upon witnessing the enigmatic stranger and his vehicle. A kind of parasitic undead spirits known as Deadites take on the bodies of living things and feed on their souls. It is discovered that the Deadites are now wreaking havoc in a few areas of Britain. The wise man is positive that Ash holds the key to solving their issues. But the captain doesn't take these forecasts seriously and believes Ash is one of Duke Henry's men. Duke Henry is actually a Scot at war with the English knights. The film then returns to the opening sequence, in which Ash and the other captured troops are led towards Lord Arthur's castle. A number of peasants and other common people applaud their king upon his arrival. Sheila, a stunning young girl whose brother is also a knight in the king's army, is among the throng. She cannot identify her brother in the returning troops and asks Lord Arthur what happened to him. He breaks the tragic news to her that her brother lost his life in the fight with Duke Henry's warriors. Sheila was so distraught that, believing Ash to be one of Duke Henry's men, she grabbed him by the hair in her rage. She curses that her brother's murder will soon be avenged and spits on him. After that, a hole of some kind is dug in the middle of the castle, where all of the enemy soldiers are brought. Duke Henry, another prisoner, comes up to Ash looking shocked. Ash is not one of his vassals despite the fact that he has never seen him before. Although our hero begs him to tell everyone the truth, the Duke is certain that his opponents will never accept what he says. Ash appears to have been handed the same fate as the Duke and his warriors. Soon after, Lord Arthur confronts his adversary on the castle premises. He discloses that the Deadites have been attacking his kingdom, and Duke Henry used this precarious situation to sneak up on them. As a result, he orders Henry and his soldiers to be cast into the pit. In an attempt to inform Lord Arthur, Ash claims he has never met Duke Henry before and has no idea who he is. However, they disregard his entreaties and cast him into the pit. Luckily, Ash survives the fall because there is ankle-deep water inside of it. However, a strange-looking creature suddenly appears from beneath the water's surface and starts to assault him. The wise man from earlier shows up at the bottom of the pit just when it looks like there is no more hope. He thinks that they were sent this weird individual to aid them in their fight against the Deadites. Additionally, Mr. Wise has brought Ash's chainsaw, which was previously seized. Ash quickly attaches it to his right hand when he tosses it into the hole. With the help of a contemporary weapon, he easily chops his opponent in half. Lord Arthur is shocked by what he sees and gives the order to let the spikes loose inside the pit. After then, the troops start tugging on a metal chain, which causes the pit's razor spikes to narrow inward toward the prisoner. Luckily, Ash acts quickly and clutches the metal chain, carefully dragging himself up and away from the spikes and into safety. A Deadite emerges from the pit's walls a short while later. As it reaches for a bite, the spikes close in, tearing the creature to shreds as it grips his leg. After that, Ash pulls himself out of the pit and gets the wise man to give him his last weapon. Using his double-barreled shotgun, he terrorizes the people living in the kingdom. Duke Henry then agrees to return the favor after he is set free. As he watches all of this, Lord Arthur daringly approaches to use his long sword to battle him. However, Ashe sneers at the blade and tears it in half. The assembled populace is astounded by the contemporary weaponry, overwhelming strength, and at last decides to pay attention to Ashe. He admits that he is from the future and that he is not from their period, and that he wishes to return without hurting anyone. Ashe is enjoying his newfound fame in the kingdom that evening when the wise man shows up bearing some unfavorable news. He reveals that obtaining the Necronomicon or the Book of the Dead is the only way Ashe can go back in time. The only book with the ability to reopen the time vortex is this potent one. But Ashe doesn't want anything to do with the book because it caused him to lose both his right forearm and his lover. In order for the wise man to make it back home safely, he begs him to look for another route. An elderly servant woman who was standing close by starts having severe convulsions at this point. She changes into a deadite and starts to levitate. She declares, humans will never find the Necronomicon, and eventually all of their souls will be preyed upon, in a deep, terrible voice. Then as if she's dead, she falls to the ground. When Lord Arthur stupidly approaches the elderly woman, Ashe intervenes just in time to stop him. After that, the deadite goes on a terrifying rampage and murders other soldiers. But Ashe uses his vintage shotgun to put it down. The wise man restates his argument following the attack. Humanity across history will perish if the Deadites discover the Necronomicon before them. This leads Ashe to realize that things are more dire than he had anticipated, and he decides to locate the wicked book. The military are preparing customized armor for the stranger's amputated right arm over the course of many days. Sheila, meantime, starts to develop feelings for Ashe and even sews him a blanket for his journey. The two wind up getting intimate the night before he is meant to start looking for her. Ashe, the wise man, and a few other troops depart the castle early the next morning. However, they only go with him to the entrance of the Road of the Dead, a notorious thoroughfare. Ashe is instructed by the wise man to stay on the route until he reaches a cemetery. He will find the Necronomicon waiting for him there, and upon accepting the book, he is expected to utter the enigmatic words, Klaatu Varada Nikto. After that, Ashe mounts his horse and rides through a foreboding forest. However, when he ventures farther into the forest, an enigmatic creature starts to hunt him down. The poor horse becomes frightened by this and begins to flee in odd ways. After a while, it strikes a tree branch and falls to the ground. Now that Ashe is without a horse and a demon is chasing him, he flees into a neighboring windmill. That evening, he approaches a nearby mirror after noticing his reflection staring back at him. However, he doesn't realize that the mirror is so close, and he ends up running into it. After glancing at his own weary visage and grabbing a broken shard, Ashe throws it to the ground. Just then, 3 tiny reflections of Ashe emerge from the broken mirror and start to torment him. They succeed in unconsciously dropping him upon a metal sheet. One of the tiny Ashes then plunges down his neck as they tie him up. A few seconds later, Ashe's body splits in half, dividing it into 2 adult humans up to his waist. He panics when the newly emerged body starts laughing uncontrollably. When he stands up and starts to sprint through the woods, the sprouting version totally separates from his body. There are now 2 Ashes, the actual Ashe and the wicked Ashe. After that, they start fighting and it seems like they are on an equal footing. But in the end, our hero takes the initiative and shoots his double in the face. After that, he carries his opponent's malformed body back to the windmill, chops it to pieces with a chainsaw, and excavates a grave for it. Before he can permanently bury it, though, the evil Ashe awakens and makes a vow to return for retribution. Ashe eventually makes it to the cemetery and meets up with his horse in the next scene. To his surprise, however, a massive tomb holds 3 books rather than just 1. Upon opening the first book, he nearly finds himself drawn into an alternate reality. But Ashe is able to hold onto the tomb and shut the book because of his iron arm. The second book then snaps shut on him as soon as he opens it. Luckily, Ashe defeats it and takes possession of the genuine Necronomicon. However, he discovers that he has forgotten the end of the magic word when he tries to utter it. When Ashe mumbles the missing word in an attempt to fool the book, all the demons buried in the graveyard come back to life. He is so terrified by this that he just takes the book and bolts back to the castle. After some time, the demons and the corpses emerge from the graves and start to make their way to Lord Arthur's castle. In addition, evil Ashe awakens the Deadites and gathers them into a single army of darkness. Ashe gives the wise man the book when he gets back and demands to be taken back to his own time. The residents are delighted that he has returned the Necronomicon, but the elderly man wonders if he uttered the enchanted words before he picked it up. A trembling Ashe claims he recited the most of the line accurately, but the wise man is aware of his errors. He goes on to say that if the book is lifted without the proper chanting of the word, the army of evil Deathites will be released onto the planet. Ash expresses regret for his errors but is adamant about going back to his timeline. He claims that by returning the book he has carried out his end of the agreement. When they learn this, Ash is trying to flee during their time of greatest need, and all the residents, including Sheila, lose respect for him. Evil Ash rides a massive bat-like thing into the castle while they are all bickering, kidnaps Sheila, and leaves. He leads her back to the cemetery where he imposes himself on her, turning the helpless girl from the hamlet into the evil queen of the dead. Ash discovers the misery he has brought upon the peasants who were depending on him in the following scene. After a while, this causes him to have second thoughts, and he chooses to lead the humans in combat against the army of the dead. He first sends a raven to Duke Henry, pleading with him to fight alongside him against the shared foe. Then, utilizing the information in his old car's mechanics and chemistry manuals, he makes a number of explosive weaponry. 2 evenings later, Evil Ash, the commander of the army of the dead, and evil Queen Sheila meet at the castle gates. A vicious altercation breaks out between the two individuals. First, thanks to their sophisticated explosives and weaponry, humans take control. However, the army of the dead quickly breaches the main entrance and begins to wreak havoc. They murder hundreds of people and it seems like there is no hope left. But just in time, Duke Henry makes his appearance with his army of Scotsmen, tipping the scales in favor of humanity. Evil Ash, meantime, is racing into the castle's interior to seize the Necronomicon. Ash pursues him, and the two get into a pitched conflict over humanity's destiny. Even when our hero deals his opponent multiple strong strikes, Evil Ash never stops returning because he is a true Deadite. Fortunately, Ash possesses a weapon that his twin lacks: a functional brain. He pulls out an explosive, jams it in the Deadite's mouth, and uses a huge slingshot to propel him skyward. As a result, Evil Ash is blown to 1,000 pieces, and Sheila is ultimately set free from his curse. Following this fight, Duke Henry and Lord Arthur resolve their issues and make a promise to never again assault one another. As this is going on, Ash receives a medicine from the wise man that will allow him to return home while he recites a line from the Necronomicon. But in order to accomplish it, he must chant Klaatu Varata Nikto. Ash says the line again and takes the potion in the last scene. He's carried to another realm without realizing it because he mispronounced the final word again.